And that's really the whole thing. Now I've just started recording for YouTube. Hopefully we'll get some of this on file. We had trouble getting up on
Okay.
Blog Talk today and a few other things. But they don't. I mean, it really is top secret. And if people like you and I have got an insight into what's really happening, we don't know that these aliens are hostile. Some of them are, some of them aren't. Kind of just like people in America. Some people are good guys, some people are bad. Some people, it's like Don Henley said from the Eagles, I've met the enemy and he is us.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. I was at a conference one time where this lady would take people that have been abducted down into the really really deep hypnotic place, and then there would be a sketch artist make a sketch of the type of ET that had abducted them. There was over 50 different ETs sketched out. And then some of them look like us, some of them don't even, you would not even know this ETs. I mean, you never think that they'd be ETs. They're so different. Yeah, there's just all kinds of these guys.
Yeah, some of them look just like us. The Nordics look just like us. We know, and you really think about it. And by the way, my guest is Chuck Wade. He's been following UFOs and picking up the litter, I guess, UFO litter around the countryside. It's we've got billions of worlds out there. We've got galaxies. We've probably got millions of planets, other stars, and it's not so hard to believe that there's other races out there. I don't believe God just made the human race. We're not unique. We may be in certain ways. We may possess a direct link to an intelligent creator, the one that's responsible for engineering our DNA. And maybe that's what our religious leaders, Jesus, like for instance, try to tell us. God's within you. You don't need a priest. You don't need to pay a priest or a rabbi. You don't need to pay a rabbi to tell you, but you can find out by talking to him direct, and maybe that's part of what they don't want us to know.
Yes, I agree with you. There are so many different races. Yeah, we know almost nothing about what's going on outside of our atmosphere. It's just really different from what we're being taught.
I believe it is. I believe it is. Again, like I told people, the reason they don't want you to know you could have lunch on the moon and be home in time for dinner without using any gasoline. So, tell me again? What about the pieces that you picked up here? Are these crashes or these equipment malfunctions? I mean, they obviously have.
No, these did not come down with a malfunction of theirs, choosing as a function of our shooting them down using high-powered radar. That one we spoke of earlier at San Antonio was brought down by a radar that installed to look at the first atomic bomb explosion there at Trinity site. Therefore, the military knew that they could bring a UFO down with a radar, so the military ordered 3 high-powered radars to be built to guard the skies over Los Alamos, New Mexico. one of these radars was put out at Continental Divide near Gallup, New Mexico, which would be within 20 miles of where I'm talking you from. Another one was at El Vado, New Mexico, up by the Colorado border. And the other third unit was a mobile high-powered radar unit put in Moriarty, New Mexico. And I feel confident that as that mobile unit that came that was there at Moriarty, before the military put the high-powered radar at Moriarty, they had taken it by the plains of San Augustine and shot down that craft that we have parts of. 3 nights later, which would be the 4th of July, 1947, they shot down at least 3 crashes that night within a minute. And then I'm reasonably sure there's a 4th one involved, but we just haven't found it. 9 months later, after the Roswell incidents and all that, at a little place called Aztec, New Mexico, the high-powered radar that's put there at El Vado brought one down that was 100 feet in diameter, and there's 16 dead aliens on it. And it was totally intact. It didn't crash, it landed. But it got really hot inside of the cabin and burned those guys up. That was unfortunate.
So, in other words, this radar is really pointable microwaves?
Yes, yeah, it was portable. Linda Moulton Howe has done a really nice paper on that. So you look up Linda Moulton Howe and the high-powered radars, and she's done a lot of research on it. But what I can verify to myself and hopefully your listening audience, the crash that we have happened on the night of the 1st of July, 1947, about 11 o'clock at night. Joe Anderson and his family were at that crash site the next morning before noon, and the military showed up within 12 hours after that craft crashed. How in the world would the military have gotten off base with a flatbed truck, a crane, road graders, and about 150 men to bivouac? How would they do that in less than 12 hours and know where to go? The plains of San Augustine is larger than the state of Rhode Island. And unless you know where that craft crashed, I'll tell you what, you'd look all day and you wouldn't find it. So therefore the government knew, or the military knew, that they had shot this craft down. They came and got it within 12 hours.
I'm sure they keep a close watch on this, and they are shooting them down. Do we have craft like this? Have we been successful in reverse engineering?
I feel confident we have. I've been told over and over that we are now in space with their technology. Yes, I feel confident that that's true. I'd love to go with them to verify it firsthand, but it's just all hearsay right now. But yes, so, and they've had it since, well, that one there in San Antonio, 1945, they had it. The one we have in 1947 on the plains of San Augustine, all really wrong with it, it busted up the front nose of it quite a bit, and it had a crack in it, but all the instrumentation and all that, it was still functioning.
That's where, and with these craft and reverse engineering out of these craft, where we got microwaves, transistors, and quite a few other technologies, lasers, night vision goggles. They talked to some of the people that were inside of the craft, said the outside looked like daylight.
Yes, yeah, I've read that. Where a lot of this stuff came from was the small craft that crashed about 40 miles north of Roswell, which I call the Hot Corso site. And Colonel Corso's book, The Day After Roswell, he mentions, Colonel Corso mentions that they had taken the parts and pieces off that small craft only about 14, 16 foot long, not quite as wide, and 6 foot high, and put it in the Pentagon, and then Colonel Corso went to the Pentagon under a 3-star general, and the 3-star General Trudeau told him to put this out in the public domain, and he did. Like whenever this information came out, whenever Colonel Corso's book, the day after Roswell came out, like Bell Labs said that didn't happen. Well, Bell Labs didn't know Colonel Corso was on their property the day it did happen. That's where we got a whole lot of this stuff was from Colonel Philip Corso, and The Day After Roswell is the book that tells it. It's a great read.
Yeah, I read his book, and I believe he's right on.
And also, I can tell you firsthand about him having couriers and going places. I was a courier for Colonel Corso. I took information from Colonel Corso to the governor of the state of New Mexico. In fact, I was supposed to pick up a package at Roswell the same year that he passed away. I talked to him down in Florida. He said he had another package of information for me. So when I got to Roswell, I was saddened to learn that he had had a massive heart attack, and he passed away on the 16th of July, on the year after the 50th anniversary.
Anybody like Colonel Corso that had one of these sudden heart attacks, I would have to believe that they simply kill him. It's like Colonel Conrad told me. I said, "You want to be on my radio show?" He said, "No, I want to live." And
well, also Steve Schiff, congressman from New Mexico, I feel confident that he was killed. Now, they gave him too much melanoma, and boy, did he died quickly, unfortunately.
you know, it just kind of makes you wonder what they are scared of. But I also believe, I'd like to get your opinion on this, that this is nothing new. We've got records of UFOs drawn on the sides of pyramids and caves, things like that. They've been around a long time. Maybe they actually came here. I have a little different opinion. You know, I think since all the pyramids are in, Egypt, South America, Central America, Mexico, I think we were maybe colonized by interstellar drug dealers. You know, they're still an ounce of cocaine or an ounce of heroin is still more valuable than an ounce of gold. So.
Well, let's see, pyramids. Have you been reading about the huge pyramids they're finding, like in Malaysia? They found one in Italy recently. Pyramids are all around the equator in the ocean. Man, quote, man, us, you and I, we no way in heck could build up those pyramids. The stones are too big. And there's too many of them. And like the Malaysians, they've got miles and miles of tunnel under there. And the last I heard, they had about 60,000 pounds of artifacts under there. And I'd love to go there to see that. But what they did after they built these monstrous pyramids, but they did not use stone in those. They made a concrete, or let's call it concrete, but they had to get it up to lots of temperature, like 400 or 500 degrees or something, in order to make it set like it did. I don't think we can do that today. It's just a monstrous amount of energy. But, one of my next studies is going to be with pyramids.
Well, they also produce energy. I would, remember...
yeah, but I'm going to say that they could put out a little bit of energy, but these crafts don't use energy like that. What I'm going to think that they were, for people could find other people who are on this big earth, like those NASCAR lines down in Chile and South America.
Right.
My goodness, you're flying around this big planet. You need to have a signpost or a billboard. That's just my theory. I don't really know.
Well, I think that could be true. Almost all that we can imagine could be very true, couldn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Let's see. What is the most recent? Have they refined us better? Have we worked out some kind of treaty so we're not shooting them down with radar beams?
Well, I think that they wanted to know what was really happening. I think the reason that Roswell, well, the crash we have on the plains of San Augustine, and then the crash by Roswell and all that, that happened just a couple weeks after Kenneth Arnold had saw those 9 UFOs go between two mountains up in Washington State, I think it was, going 1,500 miles an hour. I think what happened is that made national news, and the president or somebody like that, what are those things? So they gave the orders to take that mobile unit, that mobile high-powered radar unit that was made, up into the plains of San Augustine and shot that down to find out what in the world was happening in our skies. So I think that the Kenneth Arnold was the trigger for building, having Roswell and the plains of San Augustine, and also that 100-footer up by Aztec. I'd think he'd be in the same boat.
What about Dulce? What about Dulce? We've heard a lot about that. I've had, statements or people who had written who said they were in there. They said the Greys were there, and they had 2 or 3 levels of secrecy. Dulce, that's around the Aztec, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I have been to Dulce, spent a whole day there with Norio Hayakawa and the group. Just within the last 3 or 4 months, the state cop over there, Mr. Valdez, his son, has written a book this last year, and the name of this book is Dulce Base, and Sergeant Valdez is New Mexico State Police Sergeant. His son wrote the book, and he was also the speaker at a conference I was at. I still don't know what happened at Dulce. It just doesn't compute in my mind. All the different factions, I cannot connect the dots. So I'm going to say that I just don't know what happened to Dulce. But also,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
I was going to say that a couple items you mentioned, what all have we found at the plains of San Augustine? Mr. Campbell has found a piece of plastic that had got all hot and fell in on itself. Then he had an MRI made of this piece of plastic, and it turns out to be a triangular heart. And this triangular heart has gold, copper, and silver wires in it. And they're microscopic. I mean, really, really small. And it really needs to be worked on. And so far, we've not found anybody that would like to. And it's a 5-chambered heart, whereas I believe we humans are 4-chambered. Another thing we have is a little shoe sole, like you put on your feet, a shoe that has a sole on the bottom. This little shoe sole is made out of several layers of cotton, and the sole is 4 7/8 inches long, but the instep is 1 1/8 inches. There's not a manufacturer on earth that has made that shoe. Mr. Campbell has looked effectively. So it's really cute. I've held it in my hand.
What was the size again? In other words, this was something for an alien's foot?
Yes. Yeah, yeah, and so they keep talking about how small these aliens are. Their feet are really small.
Well,
Yeah,
they can also
inches
go.
by-
They can also go the other direction, can't they, Chuck? I mean, I've got tons of literature with pictures of giants, of what I guess Saturday Night Live would call cone heads, which could have been your emperors in ancient Egypt. So we got all kinds of different species running around. Some of them may be from Earth, and I somehow, we got people talking about reptilians. David Icke's talking about reptilians. I don't necessarily believe dinosaurs were millions of years old, but reptiles did exist, and could they have evolved the same as man or other species have, with an intelligence?
I don't believe I caught the connection there.
I'm talking about the reptilians. David Icke talks about reptilians here. Over millions of years, I would say that there was some possibility that your reptiles, your carnivores, your dinosaurs, your snake people did evolve and may have existed at some point in time in our history.
Yeah. Well, I don't believe in evolution at all.
Okay. Good word.
We're too complicated. How in the world those sperm and egg to get together and come up with us without some of them, if it had evolution, some of us would have five legs and 3 arms and all that kind of stuff. How did we all come up with bipedal, 2 arms, 1 head? No, I don't believe in evolution at all. I think we were seeded here by the Creator. Now,
I believe the DNA is of intelligent design. Somebody formed us. Somebody created us with this DNA.
I fully agree with that.
Well, it's like I say, you know, just like meeting you. I made a phone call on Skype, and somewhere over the years, I got your name on my Skype list. And it's like I told you, you know, this is the 21st century. And God, he probably finds burning bushes passe. I think he uses the internet now.
I believe that's true. but if you look at the Bible through the eyes of thinking of UFOs, they're all over the Bible. Ezekiel's wheel and other things.
Yes.
But what I would really like to do is have the truth. There is so much non-truth out there. And these authors nowadays, they don't, I think they're more interested in selling books than they are the truth. There's 2 or 3 of these authors that will stand right on stage and say the plane to San Augustine craft did not happen. Folks, I have parts of that craft. I know it happened. And I really dislike that. But and then also another author says that 2 UFOs ran together. One of them crashed right by Roswell, and one crashed over by the plains of San Augustine, about 150 miles away. There's an impossibility. They happened on 2 different days, 3 days apart. Ours happened the night of the 1st of July, 1947. Roswell happened the night of the 4th of July, 1947. Therefore, 2 UFOs did not run together. But this author will sit there at his desk and tell people they did. I think it's time we have an addendum and saying I was wrong let's get it right.
What about the Disclosure Project? Have you spoken with those people? How are they doing that?
I haven't spoken with them a little bit, but I've been with Stephen Greer on more than one occasion, and I thought it's great. And let's go back up to the beginning of the Disclosure Project. Stephen Greer and a bunch put out several books. They gave these books to all the legislators, congressmen in Congress, and senators and all that. Well, to make sure that our Congressman Stephen Schiff here in New Mexico had a copy, I requested and received from Stephen Greer a copy of all the Disclosure Project, and I physically handed that information to Congressman Stephen Schiff, and he was dead within a couple of weeks. So at least he had this information in his hand before he passed. I wish he'd have stuck around.
Yeah, well, same thing. Colonel Loy Conrad, my father-in-law, at one time. He called me up one time and said, "Well, you're a popular guy." What do you mean, Loy? He said, "Well, we stopped by to see you there, and two guys in black suits showed up wanting to know why I was talking to Clay Douglas." I said, what'd you tell him? He said, "I told him you were my son-in-law. I had to talk to you." He was dead within the year.
Oh.
It's a dangerous thing.
Yes, that's for sure. Oh, there's one other thing I'd like to share with your audience that you'll find nowhere. Is the size of the craft that's known as the Roswell incident. Nowhere have I read how big it was. And I'm here to tell your audience that it's really close to 100 feet in diameter. I have physically talked to a person that helped tear it down. And I think that's important to know that the Corona incident, or the Roswell incident, was 100 foot in diameter. The craft north of Roswell that Walter Hott talks about in his affidavit, it was only like 14, 16 foot long, not quite as wide, and 6 foot high. And also Colonel Corso, like I mentioned earlier, had parts of that craft in the Pentagon. There was the craft also that was 53 miles west of Roswell, that's the Jim Ragsdale site. And Jim Ragsdale, in his affidavit, says that craft was about 20 foot in diameter. And also, Jim Ragsdale signed two different affidavits. One saying that the craft was out on the plains, and the other one, where it really happened, was on the side of the Capitan Mountain. Therefore, these authors, and now all their wisdom, saying that being that Jim Ragsdale signed two affidavits, he's a liar, if you can't believe him. Folks, I think that's disgusting. Jim Ragsdale's site on the side of that, the Capitan Mountains, is where it happened. I have been to that site. It's just like Jim Ragsdale said. And there's lots of trees up there, but you can also see the stumps of the trees that were killed whenever that UFO came into the side of that mountain. And also Jim Ragsdale's affidavit said they were there within, well, it happened about 11 o'clock at night on the 4th of July, 1947, before sunup. The military was there. How could the military have known how to get to that crashed site, UFO, on the side of the mountain in the middle of the night? My brother and I had trouble finding that place in the daytime with a map. So therefore, these guys that say that Jim Ragsdale his works wasn't non grata or something like that. Anyway, I can understand perfectly well why Jim Ragsdale signed two affidavits. The first one, when he came forward, he knew that people had been threatened with their life if they told the truth. Therefore, he lied about saying it was the crash had crashed out on the flats. On his deathbed, he signed another affidavit saying, for real, that it was on the side of the Capitan Mountains. I believe Jim Ragsdale explicitly. And I think that these other people should get off their high horse and admit it.
Well, this is what they do. The controllers, the people that want you to believe the propaganda, they want you to believe the lies. You know, they threaten you. They try to put you down. Oh, you know, Clay's selling that book to raise money for a snitch in federal prison. You know, just a lie.
Yes.
Just a flat-out lie. Don't know anybody. Don't raise any money for nobody but me.
I fully agree with that statement. But what I want, Clay, is the truth. And I think the truth needs to be out. It's imperative that we get the truth about these UFOs, because this country and this world is in a tremendous mess. And I really believe that these ETs could help us. Maybe not, but let's find out.
Well, they keep them so secret because they do have anti-gravity. They do have capable of space travel. You don't need a 600,000-pound rocket loaded with fuel to get you off of this planet. All you got to do is hook on one of those magnetic beams or gravity sites, and you're there. I mean, we may even have instantaneous. Teleportation may be a real thing. You know, what I wrote is science fiction 45 years ago. When I go back and reread it now, based with the additional information I've acquired over 45 years, it ain't science fiction no more. You know?
Yeah.
It just...
Well, I could hardly wait for the truth to come out. And our government just must come out with the truth. And like Roswell, that Boeing thing was definitely a lie. They still want to hold it up as the truth. Well, that's dumb. It makes our military look bad, and our government look bad.
It's kind of like expecting too much. You know, one of the things I've said, the elite, they believe that we just aren't smart enough to rule ourselves. So you need the bankers, you need the financiers, you need the multi-billionaires to tell us how to go, show us where to go. Well, that would work, I guess, if they were real, if they weren't liars, if they weren't con artists, if they weren't trying to enslave us, but they are. And they have refined the art of slavery, I believe, Chuck, to the point that the slaves don't know they're slaves. I'm not a slave, man. I can go get in my pickup and go get a beer. Watch. You are an economic slave. If you are putting gasoline in that automobile, that smoking, choking automobile, you're putting gasoline in there, you are feeding the New World Order. That's why they don't want you to be self-sufficient. That's why they want you to buy those GMO modified foods that'll poison you. And as far as our intelligence level, look what we've elected over the last 50 years.
And look what we've made elect this coming time.
I believe that the UFO...
Absolutely disgusting to get her in there.
Her who? Hillary?
Yes. I think she's disgusting.
I'm
military through and through and through, and what happened in Benghazi is a crime.
What happened in Arkansas was a crime.
Makes a huge difference to me.
She and her husband were responsible for Waco, and that's what brought me into this. I swore I would never sit back and watch people murdered on television without trying to do something.
Yeah.
And you're right, if the UFOs, and I don't believe these, you talked about concrete, but I believe that some of these 50-ton rocks were simply levitated. I believe that there is a technology up there and demonstrated by the UFOs to negate gravity and use that energy, that magnetic energy. One of the most interesting things I saw was a little demonstration of a squirrel cage, kind of made out of a bicycle wheel turned inside out. There was a squirrel cage, and they put a little metal ball inside the spokes there, and then they put a permanent magnet on the outside of the wheel, and that magnet pulled that ball towards it, and that wheel would turn forever without any input of energy. And I think that's some of the technology that they don't want us to have. And now they built magnetic motors. Hendershot, other people down in Australia, they built magnetic motors you could stack up, run forever without any fuel. You could take one of these magnetic motors, which is possible to create, and set it up inside your house there, in your garage, in your back room, in the shed there, and it would provide you with all of the electricity that you ever need. It would kill the hold the New World Order has on us. We can run our ships. We can run our ships on the water they float on, folks. The U.S. Navy has done it. They've got a few experimental ships out there. They convert the water to hydrogen, and you can sail across the ocean using the water you float on. That is the New World Order we need, and it is the top secret. That's what the reason it is top secret is because they don't want to show you where the switch for the free energy is. They want you paying that electric bill.
I totally agree. There's really a good book by Roy McAllister called The Solar Hydrogen Civilization. I recommend this to everybody. Roy McAllister started the Hydrogen Association. I had the privilege of meeting Roy about 2 months ago, and I'm will become very knowledgeable in the hydrogen field. But if you also take methane gas, which is CH4, it takes just right at half as much energy to convert it to hydrogen and carbon as it does to take H2O and go up to hydrogen and oxygen. But either way, the hydrogen's important. And also the hydrogen engine, whenever you run the hydrogen engine, the air that comes out of that engine is cleaner than the air that went into it, because it gets so hot it disassociates all the particles in there, and it comes out really, really clean. China is looking at hydrogen really close, and we need to also.
Well, I've got a friend by the name of David Koss who talks about spinning your water, changing the direction of your water because it's going in the wrong direction when it comes out of your faucet. But he wanted to run for president, and I love his platform. Hemp and hydrogen in 2015, 16. Hemp and hydrogen. Hemp was our #1 cash crop until the Federal Reserve took over and demonized it.
I'll be darned. Isn't that something?
Yeah, well, they say it was George Washington said "sow it everywhere." A $20 bill from 1913 had hemp fields on the back of it. According to Popular Mechanics, it was our number one cash crop, and that's marijuana. You can't be having that.
Yeah. Well, I'm certainly not a fan of marijuana or anything like that. I've also stopped drinking, 30-some years ago. Anyway, we just have so many wonderful things that we can do and are not doing, such as telling the truth about UFOs.
Out of all of the people that you've talked to in the Disclosure Project, of the evidence that you've seen, what do you think the truth is? What are we missing out on? I would say it's anything that we could imagine, on Earth.
Well, for one thing, there is a tremendous breeding program between the ETs and our ladies.
Repeat that.
All three, ET and humans are called the children of now. And we need to look at this very, very seriously. Okay, I have another appointment coming up.
Okay.
Let's do this again one of these days, okay?
No problem. We've got about 30 minutes left here, but I'll see what I can find here. And I appreciate you having you on, Chuck. I think you're doing a good work. And, getting the truth out. That is the main thing.
Well, yeah, that's great, and I'd be happy to interview with you more. But this is an important. These people are coming through Gallup, and I need to speak with them.
All right, sir. I'll let you go. Thank you very much. God bless you.
And thank you. And thank you. We'll talk with you later.
All right. Bye-bye now. All right. Now, let's see what we've got here. First of all, let's check this. Okay, we'll close that one down. And Facebook. Let's see what we've got on Facebook. Or maybe look at something old here. All right. I'll tell you what, I will take a call. If you want to call in, the phone number let me do this, and then I'll give you the phone number.
Hello, friends. This is RJ, the Mighty Phoenix. Friends, if you're a business owner and need capital to sustain or accentuate your business, and if you've been in business for 2 years or more, and your credit scores are low as 500, I can help you. Credit scores don't pay back with money that you borrow. Credit scores are only weapons being used against you in the war on small business. You pay back money that you borrow with business monies earned. So if you have 6 recent bank statements and your business is active, and as I said, you've been in business for over 2 years, I can get you money within 8 business days. Contact me at R as in Russell, J as in James, P as in Peter, P as in Peter again, A as in Arthur, P as in Peter again, A as in Arthur.
Hello, hang on a second.
That's R J P P A P A at yahoo.com. And if you're not in business and you need to earn extra cash and you don't want to go out and work for somebody who can take advantage of you, or you don't want to spend the money to gas and get paid minimum wage, you can work with me, not for me. And earn good commissions. And all you need to do is place ads on the computer, on the internet, on Craigslist, on Backpage, on other sites.
How much?
In the financial section. Only 15 minutes a day. Again, contact me.
Okay, too high. Thank you. Goodbye.
P-A-P-A at yahoo.com. Leave your cell phone number. I'll get back to you within 24 hours. And we'll discuss the issue. I can help you. Again, RJPPAPA at yahoo.com. Have a great day, folks.
All right. You'll hear Russell down here tomorrow, looking down at some of these the work here. I want to hear Robert Steele telling you about the importance of what I do here, what the Free American does, what I've been doing, why I need your support. And there are people out there that are trying to tear it down.
I am an oil man. I lived overseas all of my life. I was very fortunate in both having several
Robert
graduate
D. Steele,
being a Marine Corps infantry officer, Marine Corps intelligence officer, and then a clandestine intelligence case officer. I've programmed imagery satellites. I've helped steal signals code books. I've done counterintelligence. I'm basically intimately familiar with the way in which the U.S. government does or does not do the craft of intelligence.
What you need to know is I'm a spy saying spying doesn't work. It's costing you $1.2 billion a week to produce the president's daily brief for a guy that can't read. People don't realize this, apart from the fact that NSA is 1950s mindsets with 1970s technologies, SCIC completely screwed up Trailblazer, Echelon is baloney. 80% of your signals intelligence comes from analysis of patterns. So you don't need to violate privacy. All you need to know is that Schmuckhead is calling Afghanistan once a week. General Shinseki knew exactly what was needed to make Iraq go right, and Paul Wolfowitz lied to Congress and said they'll receive us like liberators and stuff. If I had been General Shinseki, I would have grabbed Wolfowitz by the neck and thrown him down the steps of Capitol Hill. You don't let people lie like that. It's unprofessional to confuse loyalty with integrity, and we have had a failure of generalship in America. Our generals have been too eager to keep their stars and not eager enough to think for themselves and uphold the Constitution. Smedley Butler, the highest decorated Marine, said, war is a racket. War is a racket. War is a racket, and the only reason it's happening is because the American public is lethargic. Blog that. You are the Paul Reveres and Patrick Henrys of our generation. Bottom-up horizontal connection is key. Sharing at all levels, not top-down control. Public intelligence and influence is about to take off. We're about to bury rule by secrecy. Civil affairs is the focal point. The intelligence guys need to go back in their box. Bloggers, not informants, are key. The FBI is about to try and hire 2,000 informants in a Soviet police-style approach to security. That's idiocy. If you bloggers self-organize and attach yourself like leeches to specific issues, corporations, organizations, challenges, whatever, you will be the intelligence Minutemen of this century. The power is in your hands. There aren't enough guns to kill us all, and Halliburton can't build the jails fast enough to keep us down. Bloggers, as Linux is organized, where you grab onto an issue or something, and you are part of a structured citizen journalism blogging thing that lets no evil doing go unnoticed, that rules. So I think we're at a turning point. I think we're at the very beginning of a historic tidal shift in power, restoring the Constitution. I don't know how many of you are following this, but the Comptroller General has told Congress the United States of America is insolvent. We're out of Schlitz. We literally have no money to make it to the next decade. Now, there's some very easy solutions. I could eliminate all income taxes tomorrow and have more than enough money to fund the government by using some other guy's bright idea. We tax the Federal Reserve at 0.0006, doubles our money until we decide to put them out of business permanently, because we certainly should not have central banks. We've put together an electoral reform pledge, and it's my view that any member of Congress, any member of the Senate that refuses to sign both the constitutional pledge, supporting the Constitution, and the electoral reform pledge should be put out of business. And I believe that will be 95% of all of these people. It may be time to literally dump Congress on its ass and start over. The government has gotten stupid to the point that it can't write a statement of work. And so they ask the contractors to write a statement of work, and the contractors write a statement of work saying, you need more of what I haven't been able to sell. And the government says, oh yeah, right, good, put it in the budget. This is real shit. I can crack all 10 of the top-level threats to humanity in less than 25 years for less than 1/3 of what the world is spending on the military. Blog that. And I will tell you the price of buying back the United States government. It's $500 million a year. In the early 90s, Newt Gingrich and the Republicans got together. Their plan is now on the street. It's been exposed by a Columbia professor. They concluded that they could buy the United States government from school board to State House to White House for $300 million a year, and by golly, they did. And every single member of Congress is impeachable for having abdicated their Article I responsibilities under the Constitution and serving as foot soldiers for the president and his mendacious vice president. If you confiscate all the wealth in the world, which I do not advocate, all you have is a $5 bill for every one of the 5 billion poor on the planet. For what we have spent on the Iraq War, I could have given a free cell phone to every one of the 5 billion poor on the planet. I could have taken the 10% residual capabilities on DoD satellites, abandoned communication satellites, and I could have provided free T1 to the Southern Hemisphere. Blog that. That's the kind of stuff we have to do. Because if we don't do that, those 5 billion people, instead of producing wealth that stabilizes the earth, are going to produce plagues, epidemics, criminal gangs, drugged up people. Ralph Peters, a friend of mine, and the bottom line here is the only path to wine, women, and wealth for badasses anywhere on the planet that have no money is guns. And what's happening here is we're at the very beginning. We're just starting to come out of our little eggshell. When the industrial era began, it broke the connection between kinship and trust. And it started treating people as commodities. And then we lost sight of our government, and we allowed the corporations to buy the government. The United States of America no longer represents we the people. But you can change that. The reason it's not working today is because we have a military-industrial complex that profits from secrecy and war, and it does not profit from efficiency and peace. Blog that. The bottom line here is that central banking is an evil cancer. These people are selling us credit they don't have so they can take profits they don't deserve out of our pockets. That's nuts. The United States government is constitutionally chartered to print money on the good faith and credit of all of us and not pay interest. Why are we being such fools? Well, unfortunately, if you fight them, you get assassinated. Lincoln and Kennedy were both about to print money and not borrow from the banks. I can't connect those two dots, but I can tell you they're side by side. But the reality is the federal government is broken in every possible way. And it's going to be localized, bottom-up resilience networks. They're going to save us. That's where you guys come in. Our educational system stinks. It beats the creativity out of kids by the time they're in the 4th grade. It forces you to become a blogger or hacker in order to become creative. So you guys are the lifeboat. We've gone from America the Beautiful to America the Shit. Now, I believe we need to start blogging retrospective impeachments. I'm not saying we need to hang them or tar them or feather them, just out them. I think it's time for citizen investigative journalism to go deep and go back and go current. And people need to understand they can't get away with this stuff. There is absolutely no lack of solution, and there is also no lack of money. What is lacking is the popular political will to exercise our God-given right to be in charge. I got thrown off Fox News for saying the global war on terror wasn't real. Well, it's not. Okay? I mean, until we can get to one man, one bullet for the top 6,000, we can contain the next level, and we can provide a quality of life for everybody on the planet at the lowest level, we're not going to get it. The Air Force solution for terrorism is to kill one guy in an entire village, which of course creates 100 to 200 additional terrorists because of that indiscriminate war crime. It's just nuts. And it's nuts because the media isn't doing their job, and so it falls to you. And my dream is to have someone adopt every zip code and start doing that weekly report for their zip code. And then those little reports will start having babies, and it'll start spreading. Your government is stupid, and they're stupid deliberately. The intelligence community does not do open source information because they like to think that the cabinet departments are doing their open source information. That's not true. The cabinet departments don't know how to do decision support. What they know how to do is take stakeholder interests and turn them into policy that increases budget share. That is not what I call reality-based budgeting. Politics today has gotten so dirty it's not worth anybody's time if they've got a brain. Well, I don't have a brain, I have a soul. And I believe that America needs to get back in the business of managing itself. I am absolutely certain that central banks are an evil. Central banks are screwing us all, or we'll head it right. We are pigs being harvested for profits. I do believe there are secret societies, although, you know, given a choice between conspiracy and incompetence, I generally go with incompetence. The Bilderberg Group, I just saw a list of who attended the last time, and it's almost a list of nobodies who want to be somebodies combined with somebodies on their way down. You know, I'm not that impressed. These people think they're the movers and the shakers. They're only the movers and the shakers as long as you let them be the movers and the shakers. I spent 18 years trying to help secret government agencies get in touch with unclassified information. And Tom Atlee sent me an email, and he had this little signature blog where Buckminster Fuller said, don't try and heal a broken system, create a new system that replaces it. So I'm honored to be here to set the tone for you guys. And my bottom line is don't waste your time on the federal government. It's going away. There are 27 secessionist movements. There are 9 distinct nations in North America. I anticipate some virtual separation in the Republic. And I think that you're going to find that, like Vermont, for example, is all of a sudden going to be seen by the rest of America as exactly where we want to be, or Seattle. And so that's called the spike theory of change. As soon as one state gets it perfect, it's going to spread like wildfire.
I believe that could be Colorado. 45 years ago, I wrote a novel about 46 states abolishing laws against victimless crimes. It was called the Solomon Series. Don't know what it'll be called when I finish editing it. Don't know how I'm going to finish it editing if I'm having to move this, move that, move here, move there all the time. But I'll try to get settled down. Thought I had. Turns out I was wrong on that. But I'm still trying to be able to run this show and do this show and write my books. And don't know if I'm going to be successful. You know, to have one of my magazines sold for $500,000 and wake up on a Monday morning to go into the offices only to find that the plug had been pulled on that. Again, who is this guy? Was this a bad guy? Was this an enemy? No. No, we made a deal for $500,000, and he would have had a magazine. And he wasn't a bad guy, but he was hit by the propaganda. The people that didn't want you to listen to the show, that didn't want you supporting me, that didn't want you listening to the truth about the Jews, the Zionists, the elitists, the Bilderbergs, the energy companies, and the pharmaceutical companies. Well, on Earth, Gordon Duff was on my show a few days ago. Supposed to be getting on there. Think I'm making progress, and then somebody pulls the plug on the internet. Or, in the case of Keene, Texas, they pulled the plug on the whole internet system. The whole internet system went down for almost a month. It was, and it's, for me, hell is being disconnected from the internet. This is the way I communicate. This is the way I talk to people. This is how people can call me that have had my phone number, 505 number, for how many years? How many years? And, of course, I've got the people out there that call me anti-Semitic. Let me let you listen to somebody comment on the Palestinians, and you are the new Palestinians. Us Americans are the new Palestinians, because they're going to lead you astray, they're going to jerk you around.
There is a huge gap between us Jews and our enemies, not just in ability, but in morality, culture, sanctity of life, and conscience. They are our neighbors here, but it seems as if at a distance of a few hundred meters away, there are people who do not belong to our continent, to our world, but actually belong to a different galaxy. Israeli President Moshe Katsav, the Jerusalem Post, May the 10th, 2001. The Palestinians are like crocodiles. The more you give them meat, they want more. Ehud Barak, Prime Minister of Israel at the time, August 28, 2000, reported in the Jerusalem Post, August 30, 2000. The Palestinians are beasts, walking on two legs. Menachem Begin, speech to the Knesset, quoted in Amnon Kapeliuk. New Statesman, 25th of June 1982. The Palestinians should be crushed like grasshoppers, heads smashed against the boulders and walls. Israeli Prime Minister at the time, in a speech to Jewish settlers, New York Times, April the 1st, 1988. When we have settled the land, all the Arabs will be able to do about it is to scurry around like drug cockroaches in a bottle. Raphael Eitan, Chief of Staff of the Israeli Defense Forces, New York Times, 14th April 1983. How can we return the occupied territories? There is nobody to return them to. Golda Meir, March the 8th, 1969.
Now, this is the way they feel about you, the American people. I interview you, ask about my, the guests I had on featured. I just take a lot of videos, so then feature those. But I featured one by an IDF soldier who became a refusenik. A refusenik. He didn't want to do to the Palestinians what the Jewish leaders wanted him to do. He decided they were human beings. He made friends with them, and he tried to tell you that you Americans are the next Palestinians. They hate you. Matter of fact, well, let's see, one more. You see the quote at the top of my things. I'm talking about the Bolsheviks, talking about Alexander Solzhenitsyn, what he said. Read what he said and listen to these Jewish leaders, Israeli leaders.
There is no such thing as Palestinians. They never existed. Golda Meir, Israeli Prime Minister, June 15th, 1969. The thesis of the danger of genocide was hanging over us in June 1967, and that Israel was fighting for its physical existence is only bluff, which was born and developed after the war. Israeli General Matityahu Peled reported in Haaretz, 19th of March 1972. Ben-Gurion warns in 1948, "We must do everything to ensure the Palestinians never do return," assuring his fellow Zionists that Palestinians will never come back to their homes. From "the old will die and the young will forget." We have to kill all the Palestinians unless they resign to live here as slaves. Chairman Heilbron of the Committee for the Re-election of General Shlomo Lahat, the mayor of Tel Aviv, October 1983. Every time we do something, you tell me America will do this and we'll do that. I want to tell you something very clear. Don't worry about the American pressure on Israel. We, the Jewish people, control America, and the Americans know it. Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, October the 3rd, 2001, to Shimon Peres, as reported on Kol Yisrael Radio. We declare openly that the Arabs have no right to settle on even 1 centimeter of Eretz Israel. Force is all they do or ever will understand. We shall use the ultimate force until the Palestinians come crawling to us on all fours. Raphael Eitan, Chief of Staff of the Israeli Defense Forces, Gad Becker, Yediot Achronot, 13 April 1983, and the New York Times, 14 April 1983. We must use terror, assassination, intimidation, land confiscation, and the cutting of all social services to rid the Galilee of its Arab population. Israel Kunig, the Kunig Memorandum. Jewish villages were built in the place of Arab villages. We do not even know the names of these Arab villages. I do not blame you because geography books no longer exist. Not only do the books not exist, the Arab villages are not there either. Nalal arose in the place of Malul, Kibbutz Gvat in the place of Jipta, Kibbutz Sarit in the place of Hunefis, and Kefar Yeshua in the place of Tal al-Shuman. There is not a single place built in this country that did not have a former Arab population. Moshe Dayan, addressed to the Technikon, Haifa, reported in Haaretz, April the 4th, 1969.
In other words, folks, I'm giving you the truth. This is how they feel about you. And again, as Alexander, Nobel Prize winner Alexander Solzhenitsyn said, you must understand the leading Bolsheviks who took over Russia were not Russians. They hated Russians. They hated Christians. Driven by ethnic hatred, they tortured and slaughtered millions of Russians without a shred of human remorse. It cannot be overstated. Bolshevism committed the greatest human slaughter of all times. The fact that most of the world is ignorant and uncaring about this enormous crime is proof that the global media is in the hands of their perpetrators. Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Now they call them Zionists or neocons today. They hate Americans of all colors today, especially whites. God bless you all. Thanks for listening. Sorry for all of the technical difficulties. Amazing that we got this done. FreeAmerican.com and shop.freeamerican.com is where you can get copies of the latest magazines. You can get copies of my book, Mystery Babylon. I urge you all to read. You want to know more about Clay Douglas? Read Mystery Babylon. It'll tell you everything from why they came after Christian identity, for God's sakes. God bless you all. Thanks.